parents or because of him. But Bartimaeus is born blind. And yet, as he sits and begs, maybe by the temple gate, maybe within the temple, we don't know, but as he sits and begs, day after day after day, he hears that Jesus of, was it Nazareth? Was coming. And he gets himself positioned, and we don't know how. Did he get himself there? Did some friends of his help him find a spot where he could call out? We do know he was told by the church officials and perhaps the disciples to shush, because he calls out to Jesus. And he doesn't shush. He calls out even louder, as loud as he can. Do you know what I'm talking about? When you call out with all that is in you to Jesus. When everything around you seems to be falling down, and you know how that feels, Dina and so many others of us. But we call out, and Jesus makes time and room and space for us. He says, what do you want? It's interesting, because what Bartimaeus says, that I may see again. Did you catch that? I missed that. All week long I've played with this scripture, and I missed that. That I may see again. Well, he was born blind. When did he see before? So we have to think about, why is there an again in that sentence? That I may see again. That I may see with the eyes that you see with. That I may have insight that I was born with, but that you can help me revision and see again. And Jesus says, your faith has healed you. Your faith has healed you. How has our faith healed us? There's a story of Captain Scott Smiley, who returned from Iraq blind. And he was in a hospital for a long time. His wife Tiffany was there with him. And then he was moved to a rehab center for blind service people. And while he was still in a coma when he had first come home, I don't know, the officials, I don't know, maybe Debbie and Jan can tell me who they were, but somebody came and served her papers and said he needs to decide this. And they were papers for a full discharge and full disability benefits from the military. And she didn't sign those papers while he was in a coma. But weeks and weeks and weeks later, they had to come to a decision. And she said to him, Scott, you've got to make a decision. And he said, I don't want to be on disability even though I'm disabled. And she said, are you disabled? What is it you want to do? And he had sort of half-heartedly sent out resumes to companies that hire like military consul people. But he didn't really want to do that. And he said, well, what I really want to do is a non-combat job in the service. So he found his way to Virginia, where they put him in charge of teaching recruits that were about to be sent overseas. And he said of that experience, it was as if I knew what they were going to ask me before they did. And he was very good at that. And he went from there to teaching the primary leadership class that was taught at West Point. And then they put him in charge as the commander of those troops who returned home that had to deal with issues like he had to deal with. And of the experience, he says, what I learned most about my blindness was I stopped seeing just myself and judging other people through the eyes I used to have. And now I see them so differently. It was a faith experience for him and for Tiffany, because she had said to him in the earlier conversation before his first commission following the blindness, God will help us, but you need to make a decision. There's a story from Pittsburgh, and of course our hearts go out to Pittsburgh this weekend. Continue to go out to the chosen people of Yahweh, the people of Jewish faith who throughout the centuries continue to be targeted by those who think they aren't worth existing, think they aren't God's chosen or anybody else's. But they are, and we pray with them. But this story is about two dogs that were taken to a rescue shelter in Pittsburgh. Their names were Jeremy and Jeffrey. They were brought there together, and after a few weeks there, I don't know how long, one of the workers discovered by watching them that whenever they went any place, they always went together and in tandem, with one leading and his brother resting his head on his brother's back so that he could follow him. And they discovered he was blind. And he had his own seeing eye dog. But what they also discovered was once they put that story out via social media online, they had tons of people calling and asking to adopt the two brothers. And they had people calling who couldn't adopt the two brothers, but came to the shelter to see who they could adopt. And there were people calling who couldn't adopt any more animals, but wanted to know how to support the work of the shelter financially. In some ways, blindness is a gift. And it's calling out to Jesus, calling out to God, whatever our blindness is. My wife loves to watch that television show called Blind Spot. I don't like to watch that show. So I don't know much about it, except I do know from the title that I have my own blind spots. And perhaps you do as well. I don't know. But what I know about the blind spots I have is that if I, like Scott Smiley, can get over myself, I can see with the eyes that Jesus sees. If I, like the two canine brothers, can learn what it means to be family and to take care of each other, there is such gift in learning how to do that. There's one more story I want to share, and it's about a couple that were both blind. Apparently a husband and wife. They both had the white tip canes. He had a toddler by the hand, and she was clutching an infant to her breast. And they were crossing the street. And the person that tells the story was sitting in a car kind of daydreaming, and then realized that there was really something happening here. And what he saw was that as the couple tried to cross the street, they veered out of the crosswalk and toward oncoming traffic. And all the cars stopped at once. And then the people from the cars started to yell out directions and instructions. No, 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 turn right. And then somebody else, no, turn right. Okay, now go straight ahead. And the family moved safely across the street, but left behind a community of people that learned from them what it means to care about each other. Bartimaeus calls out, Jesus, son of David, hear me. We call that out a lot ourselves. Jesus, can't you see what's happening? And we know that he tells us every single time, I am with you. And your faith will heal your heart, no matter what this journey brings it to and through. May we call out, let go of the blind spots that are the judgment within us, and see each other and everybody we meet through the eyes that Jesus sees us, so that we may see again the way God sees.